Hello, everybody. I'm coming at you live from the Blairsville Public Library, hence all the books behind me. So I'm so excited to be here in the little town of Blairsville. I really had no idea what an historic town this is. And the wonderful people here at the library just gave me a book because they're celebrating their bicentennial. That's 200 years. Blairsville was incorporated in 1825, and it has an amazing history. Hi, Laura. We're going to wait for some people to come on. I've got some story time for you. Now, I was supposed to be here today anyway, doing a book signing for my book like it was yesterday. My new book, Do You Think About Me on My Birthday? And Josh Hayes's book that I have published called Still Standing. I'm sorry, I know they're backwards, but we've got a little stack of books over here. My library talk got postponed until next week, but I'm like, I'm already here, so I will do a little library talk with you guys. And we can learn some things about this amazing little town called Blairsville. I think it is healthy for us to take our minds off of the tragedy that we've been dealing with, although I do think it's important to refer back to my first book like it was yesterday, because I think it's really important that I read to you the beginning of my book, which is a diary, and it started on the day of 9/11. I only want to read to you that day and a couple days after. And then after I do that, we'll tell you a little bit more about Blairsville. I have some cool books here, and the library I'm in goes back to 1886. Really, really neat. So you know how much Jill loves history. Hi, Jamie. Hi, guys. Glad you are here. Maybe I should talk about the Blairsville Library before I talk about my book. I don't know what you want to hear first, but it is so interesting. Let me just tell you a little bit about this historic library that we are in right now. It's not the old building, because the old building looked like this, but the building today, it looks like this. And outside it says 1969. However, in 1872, a library / reading room was introduced to the Blairsville community through the YMCA. Hey. Anyway, that's funny. A building was then purchased near the Diamond in 1882. And all these little towns in Pennsylvania have a town center. They usually call it the Diamond. So we saw that in Gettysburg too. We were in the Diamond. By 1908, the library committee was formed and purchased the land and the building on Walnut Street, which is where we are currently in this location. In 1969, the new library building was erected and is where the books and other treasures are housed today. This legacy is a testament to Blairsville's rich history and commitment to its community. So if you are anywhere near Blairsville next week at this time, actually 2 o'clock, I will be here talking about my books. But since a lot of you guys live nowhere near Blairsville and there's no way you're going to get here, not today and not next week, I will give you a little taste of my library book signing before I do it. Okay, so I'm kind of practicing on all of you. How about that? All right, so yeah, Gettysburg was so interesting. Blairsville, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it had very, very rich history during the Civil War. And from what I understand from the librarian, it had a big part in the Underground Railroad. So let me dive into that just quickly, because this is, like I said, the 200th anniversary of Little Blairsville, Pennsylvania. And we'll walk around this town a little bit later, but right now we're in the library doing library things, which means reading books. The Historical Society of the Blairsville area was founded in 1986 by a small group of people who recognized the need for an organization dedicated to preserving and promoting the heritage of Blairsville and the surrounding area. So there's a bunch of names, and this happened in 1990, that this group purchased a house that was built around 1909. Well, this is all kind of new. I mean, this town is 200 years old. Okay. So if you guys saw my video a couple days ago where I was, hi Annie, I was on the banks of the Conemaugh River. So the Conemaugh is, you know, this is Blairsville. This is Blairsville before the Civil War in 1850. And you can see that it looks pretty modern, you know? It's like 1850. 150 years, that's just a couple of generations removed from us. And I keep thinking about that, and especially these days, and people even more are calling for a civil you-know-what. And if you're watching the Beach Report, please listen to the history lessons that I'm giving you and realize that you don't want that. Nobody wants war. War is hell. I don't know if I'm even allowed to say the word, but this whole area of Pennsylvania was ravaged during the Civil War, and they lost a lot of residents who were killed during the fighting. But this area actually, the town of Blairsville came to life in 1825. I'm just going to give you some highlights about Blairsville. Let me find this Underground Railroad situation. Oh, there's salt licks and coal mines and Cokeville. Yeah, what do you think Cokeville was about? No, not cocaine. I'm sure that had to do with the steel industry, because Blairsville is just about an hour away from Pittsburgh. That's right. In 1871, Isabella Furnace began operation of a coal and coke plant, which operated for 32 years. There were about 200 coke ovens. The company built a large crusher between Minestown Hill and McGee Run, which was used to prepare the coal for the ovens. Cokeville. The first bridge between Blairsville and Cokeville was destroyed by the Johnstown flood. Okay, that is a big, big deal in this area. It's kind of near Johnstown. Hey, Marky. And the Johnstown flood affected these people so badly. They still talk about it to this day. It was devastating. What year was the Johnstown flood? There were two.
I'm trying to think. I can't remember the first one. It was in the 1800s, and there was one around 1935 somewhere.
Late 30s, and then another one.
1936, St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day flood, yes.
1936. That's the one all the old timers remember.
Let's see, I think 1889 is the one we remember with the greatest amount of fatalities.
In 1889, a lot of people lost their lives. So it's a dangerous area, actually, this whole area. There were Indians living here. I'm trying to find the stuff about the Underground Railroad. Oh, you know what Darla told me? Want to say hi? Say hi. Darla told me that Blairsville has
Hi, guys.
no grocery store.
No, we do not have a
What's up
grocery
with
store in
that?
Blairsville.
It's an actual food desert here in Blairsville.
Where they have to go get their groceries is either Walmart or they can stop at couple restaurants. I'm not sure if Dollar General here sells some food or not, but they might sell like a little bit of frozen food. But if they want an actual grocery store, they have to
There's
go
a
out of town.
Sheets. That's expensive.
They have Sheets, which sells food, but they have to cook it.
Yeah, exactly.
The other flood was 1977. That was a major.
Oh, the Johnstown flood of 1977. That was the one all the people remember the most.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when I was a reporter for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and I used to work with this photographer all the time, and his name was Bob, and Bob talked about the Johnstown flood nonstop. And it was interesting. Bob had a lot of interesting things to say, but man, there were times he would just start talking about the Johnstown flood and he wouldn't stop. It was very interesting, but yeah, sometimes it was a bit much. Anyway, I did not know Harriet Tubman was married. I'm looking for this, see if there's any kind of an index to find about. I'm looking up the Underground Railroad information about this area. Here's the Blairesville Diamond, by the way. Thank you, John. This is kind of a hard book to get through because I'm just seeing it for the first time and there isn't an index, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to check it out. And I found it. Okay, the Blairesville Area Underground Railroad History Center. And this is what the center looks like, and I'll bet that's a house that was harboring slaves from the South. It's the former Second Baptist Church building, which in and of itself is historic. It was built in 1917, and it's the oldest African-American church in Blairesville. The History Center is currently open year-round, so we might have to stop there. But, okay, here's the story. Okay, as early as the 1540s, enslaved West Africans who were kidnapped and transported to North America resisted their bondage. They employed various strategies, including organized uprisings, labor disruption, sabotage, and escape to challenge their enslavement. It is this final act, escape, that is particularly significant in the history of Blairesville. All right, everybody, sit down, put your feet up, and get ready. I'm going to read you a little story time, a history story time, all true, all the time. Okay, Jill likes the truth. We don't read stories that are not true. Just saying. All right, you guys ready? Ready to hear a story? A real story? Blairesville was part of the Underground Railroad, a loosely organized network of abolitionists dedicated to helping enslaved people escape to freedom in Canada. Two men, Lewis Johnston and John Graff, operated the Underground Railroad safe houses in Blairesville Borough. Catherine Riley Coleman Brown, who moved to Blairesville in 1851 after running an Underground Railroad site near Ross Furnace in New Florence, I'm guessing that's in Pennsylvania too, also played a key role. All three helped men, women, and children, primarily from the northern Appalachian region, on their journey to freedom. Lewis Johnston, a free man born to an enslaved mother and a devout Covenant Presbyterian, guided freedom seekers from Cambria and Westmoreland counties in Pennsylvania again to his home on West Campbell Street. There, his wife, Jane Brunson Johnston, provided food and shelter. Johnston, a coal miner, also drove an oxen team hauling iron blooms over Chestnut Ridge for merchants George Mulholland and Samuel Ray. It is believed that he smuggled freedom seekers, not his family, freedom seekers along with the iron during his frequent trips. So he was a human trafficker. Johnston and his family lived in Allegheny City for about 5 years, where he is thought to have been part of a strong underground railroad network. He returned to Blairsville in the mid-1850s, where an attempted kidnapping of a freedom seeker named Richard Newman reportedly occurred near his home. John Graff, a wealthy merchant with interests in coal, iron, and dry goods, moved from Pleasant Unity to Blairsville in 1836, where he built a grand brick home on South Liberty Street across from his brother Henry's house. Graff had a tunnel constructed beneath his brother's property along the Conemaugh River, which was used to hide freedom seekers. The tunnel led to Graff's carriage house at the rear of his property, where a secret chamber lined with stone and covered with boards was dug into the floor. According to Graff's descendants, the second floor of the carriage house held 2 beds, used to provide comfort to the weary travelers. Lucy Graff, John's wife, would supply them with food and clothing for their journey north. Catherine, known as Auntie Kay Brown, born in Bedford, Pennsylvania, was bound to her grandmother's enslaver, Judge Jonathan Hoag Walker, until the age of 11. She was later labeled an abandoned slave and was bound until the age of 18. At 20, she married Frank Coleman, a self-emancipated man who had escaped from his enslaver in Mississippi with the help of the Underground Railroad in Pittsburgh. From 1834 to 1850, the Colemans assisted more than 50 people to escape to freedom. After Frank's death in 1851, Catherine moved to Blairsville, where she became a key figure in the AME Zion Church and worked alongside John Graff. Now let's just look at these dates here, 1830s to 1850s, and the Civil War really kind of started in earnest in the early 1860s, as we learned in Gettysburg, which was July 2nd, 1863. So this was all happening prior to the war. Can you imagine that these people were leaving the plantations where they were slaves and they were coming up north? And please don't ever forget that it was these white families up north that were helping people who were slaves in the Underground Railroad. So I find it kind of disingenuous for people to say things about white people like we are all slavers or something, because those of us who were born and raised in the northern part of the country, our ancestors, if we have these ancestors, they most generally were fighting slavery. They were fighting the oppression from the South. I know there were many reasons for the Civil War to happen, but these people sent their sons to fight for freedom. And a lot of these people doing this Underground Railroad stuff were helping people. So, oh, thank you, Marky. Actually, these were a gift from my friend Joe Air Pilot. Check out his YouTube channel, and he makes jewelry. And every time I see Joe Air Pilot, he gives me jewelry. He's the best. So thank you. Anyway, descendants of Graff and Johnston have claimed that Blairsville once had 3 tunnels to conceal freedom seekers. These claims might be considered family lore, but they are widely believed. There was a tunnel along the Conemaugh River. In April of 1958, there was a bounty hunter and slaver named Adam Strump and a deputy marshal who came into Blairsville pursuing a particular slave. So they have a lot of stories about people escaping through this area, and you can see there was this house where they would keep people. I know there's a house in Pittsburgh also that was part of the Underground Railroad. It's really interesting history, but I just really wish that people would think about our country's history and stop acting like we just are slavers, you know, like the whole country. We're not. We fought for freedom for everybody, for all men who are created equal. Just saying. Just saying. All right, well, now that I have your attention, I'm going to go into some recent history, and I'm going to read you an excerpt of my book about the way 9/11 changed our society. I know it's backwards. It's like it was yesterday. A journalist file since 9/11. I really wanted to read you the beginning, which is a diary that I started writing on 9/11, because 24 years later, we all need to remember. Okay, Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, 8:13 p.m. Everything has changed, and we will never be the same again. Today, the World Trade Center was attacked and destroyed by 2 jet airplanes full of regular people. The plane had been hijacked. 20 minutes later, the Pentagon was hit by another plane, and even as I write this, one of its sides is still burning and has completely caved in. After the shock of seeing the Twin Towers smash into the streets of Lower Manhattan, I realized that my brother's office wasn't far from the scene. I tried calling his house, but I couldn't get through. The phone lines were clogged with calls from people like me, searching for our loved ones in the smoldering city. I ran to my neighbor's house, and she offered me lunch, but I told her there was no way I could eat. I just wanted to find my brother, so she gave me her phone and told me to go for it. After a few tries, I finally got through to his answering machine, where I left a message. Then I was finally able to get through to his office's automated answering service. "Welcome to Chase, where the right relationship is everything," announced the automated bank teller in a cheerful voice. I took comfort in the fact that the phones were working there and punched in his extension, but only managed to reach his voicemail. "Andy, please call me. Let me know you're okay." At noon, he left a message that was full of sorrow. He could barely speak, and I could hear him crying as he told me that his building was being evacuated and I should call him later at home. I fell apart when I heard him weeping and sounding like a scared little boy, but later he told me that he had been the one with the calm exterior and that everybody came to him for information. He was cradling one older gentleman in his arms just to keep the guy from freaking out. He told me that as soon as the first plane hit, everyone wanted to go out and see, but Andy blocked the door and told them that they would be leaving over his dead body. One man had actually escaped into another part of the building, and when he came back, Andy said that he nearly throttled him. They thought that a building's incinerator had exploded, and when they looked out the window, they saw pieces of paper flying through the air. Out on the street, one of their coworkers was just entering the building when he noticed a $20 bill floating down from the sky. He nudged the woman next to him. "Look, it's a 20." And he grabbed it out of the air, but when he looked at it, he noticed that it was covered with blood. And he dropped it on the ground and he ran into the building. Is this making any sense? I write what my brother told me when he finally got to his house on Long Island, covered in asbestos and ashes. He'd had to walk about 5 miles to find an operating train. He told me that the ground was littered with women's shoes. I can't even comprehend what has happened. The television is going apeshit with grisly pictures that surely can't be real. It's like something out of Hollywood. I'm walking around like a zombie, my eyes red and swollen, and I'm constantly on the verge of tears. Today I cried on Laura Mitnick, and I don't even really know her. What has happened to our country? Who has committed this unspeakable crime? I felt like shaking the people in the stores. They're cheerful. Good morning. This was not a good morning. In fact, it was probably the worst morning I've ever seen in all of my 36 years. Wednesday, September 12th, 2001. Went to bed early last night with the television droning endlessly about the day's terrible tragedy. The last thing I remember of Tuesday, September 11th, was Republicans and Democrats singing the national anthem together. And then I fell into a deep, dreamless sleep, my eyes finally able to rest after all the sobbing I'd been doing since 8:50 in the morning. Today I woke with a start, practically shouting, "What the hell?" I guess I was hoping that yesterday was a nightmare. When I turned on the television, the scene was grisly. Thousands of people digging about in the rubble that used to be the World Trade Center, dodging the other buildings that were suddenly collapsing all around them as they searched desperately for signs of life. In Washington, the fire still burns, and it's not likely that anyone has survived, but we all hold out hope. This was a day of shock, fear, anger, sadness, despair, uncertainty, rage, confusion, understanding, and pride. I dissolved into tears every time I was confronted with another account of courage in the face of terror. I had to drive Jennifer to school because she missed the bus. As we pulled out of the driveway, the classic rock station I usually listen to began playing the national anthem, making it hard to see the road through the tears I was trying to hide from my child. She's frightened enough as it is. I'm just glad she's spending her days in school and not around me because I am not doing very well at keeping it together. I am so grateful to her teachers for staying quiet about the attack and not letting the children know a thing. They left it up to us to tell them, which I think was the right thing to do. Some people ran to the school right after the fourth plane went down in nearby Somerset County and picked up their children despite disapproval from the school psychologist. Okay, I admit, I ran there too. After the rabbi closed down the temple and sent all the preschool children home. But when the elementary school secretary assured me that the children were not going to be told anything about it, I decided that what Jenny didn't know couldn't hurt her. Now, I wonder if that was crazy, knowing that they'd evacuated downtown Pittsburgh, closed all the universities, and even shut down the malls. When Stacy called from Bethesda, Maryland, she told me that they made all the parents come and pick up their kids from school. They were even on the brink of planning a retreat 2 hours away to their property on the Mason-Dixon line, until I told her that a fourth plane had gone down in Somerset, which is a mere 20 minutes away from her plot of land in Deep Creek. It felt like there was nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. The phone has continued to ring with calls from my family and friends in Basel, Switzerland, as well as a couple of calls from some other ex-Baselers who now live in Australia. We greatly appreciate the concern and support, but we were surprised by it until I found the BBC on TV and heard them telling the world that Pittsburgh was also attacked. Somerset is over an hour away from the Berg. It's home to our local ski resorts, Hidden Valley, Seven Springs. We're untouched by it in Pittsburgh, but they're making it look like we've just been hit like Washington and New York City. It's simply not true. Thursday, September 13th, 2001. 8:46 a.m. I keep telling all the folks in Switzerland that we're safe in Pittsburgh on Tuesday, and now I learned that the doomed flight could just as easily have hit our U.S. Steel building as passengers fought for control of the plane right above our heads. Some of the moms from the temple even saw a plane flying low and erratically at just about that same time. Pittsburgh, New York, and Washington. There's someone I love in every city that was airplane bombed. And I'm telling the Swiss and the Aussies that we're all right. We're not all right. That airplane crashed in what just as might as well be our own backyard. And they're talking about Pittsburgh because it happened in the airspace over Pittsburgh. It was by the grace of God that it landed in an empty field instead of killing masses and destroying buildings, decimating skylines. God, they've dismembered the coveted NYC skyline. It doesn't even seem real. It's like we're marching about in this bizarre, morbid, angry movie. They're pulling bodies out of the wreckage. Well, not even bodies, body parts. Miraculously, 6 firemen have come out of the rubble alive. I believe there are more to be found, but they must work quickly to free them. How do I prepare for World War III? Will I survive it? Quitting my bad habit seems pointless now. Did the woman who just lost 25 pounds have time to grab a donut before plunging to her death from the 103rd floor of Tower 1? Did Joe Schmo, who quit smoking for a year, wish he could have one last puff before the fire took his skin off? What does it matter when it could all be over in an instant of impact and we're lost beneath the rubble of war and hate, death and destruction, fighting for a return to Monday's peaceful freedom the day before all hell broke loose? What did I even do on Monday, September 10th? It was actually a really happy day for me. Toby started his first day of preschool, and my mom took me out to breakfast to celebrate. Later that day, I transcribed a huge pile of letters from the days of yore, so excited about preparing to finish my book with known information, and all I have to do is compile it into the last third of the story. It was the New York Chronicles. Still working on that one, by the way. I hear motor sounds in the distance, and I wonder, is it a plane or a helicopter? I've been running outside and peering at the sky for the past 3 days the moment I hear that telltale roar in the sky. I've always looked at planes in dread that I might watch one blow up, and I always imagine the Twin Towers falling, but I never put the two together. It's raining outside, and lightning just struck. I'm glad it's not an airplane crashing into the U.S. Steel Tower, but I'm worried anyway. However, I'm learning that disaster happens on clear, sunny days. So I suppose we're safer on a stormy night, despite the dangers of lightning. Oh, great. Now I think I hear a chopper. Will the war that started here be fought on foreign soil? Our country continues to be threatened by the unknown cowards who so badly want us to feel the pain and devastation of war in our own country for once. Well, we fucking hate it too, assholes. So why don't you just stop the killing? Stop the destruction. I'm going to stop there myself. Yeah, it's kind of all the same emotions that we had on that day. I feel like we got them all back. And then some. Only the sad part is that we're not really thinking about Democrats and Republicans coming together. It's more kind of a them versus us situation in some cases, which is pretty sad. And I wish it wasn't true, because I feel like all of this is just another way to divide us and make us feel like it's us against them. And it's not us against them. It's really not. We're being tricked all the time by everything. And I, for one, I'm pretty sick of it. All right, you guys. Yeah, good versus evil, you know, and nobody's purely good and nobody is purely evil. We're all just people. And I think that every one of us wants our families to thrive, and we want to have good lives, and we want to be able to trust each other, and we're just constantly being told that we can't. I think we have this ability too to get along, but we're not using it because outrage is what sells on the internet. So I get it. I have my moments of outrage too. But I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live in a country where some people are slaves and other people are enslavers. I don't want to live in a country where freedom is just a word that people toss around like it's an impossibility, because if you don't agree with somebody, you're at risk of being ended. I don't want to live in a country like that. So please understand that I think we do all want the same things, and we want to get through these times, and we don't want the civil W. I hate to say the word, but we really don't want that at all. So, you know, they say you can agree to disagree, but in some cases these days, the things that I'm disagreeing with are very basic, and I feel like things are happening right now that doesn't even make sense. You know, the whole ideology about whether you're a boy or a girl, that, you know, the targeting children to be confused about who they are. You know, identity is super important, and this is coming from an adopted child, and I can tell you, identity is kind of everything. So, hello, Netherlands. Hello, world. Yes, stay calm and keep doing what we're doing. Exactly, Jamie. It's very important that we do stay calm. Keep a cool head and understand, the more crazy they are, the calmer we get, okay? They're unhinged. They need to see what the adults look like. And with President Trump leading us, the adults are back. So I think that things are going to be okay once some people understand that having a tantrum, threatening violence, tearing it down, it's not the way. Okay? I hope that everybody can just try to look at this country as a work in progress. We can get along. I do believe it. I know that we did it after 9/11, despite having all of these outrageous feelings about seeing so many people killed because of hate. Almost 25 years later, and I feel like we have not learned anything. But I don't know. Maybe in the next year, people come around, make it a better place. All right, you guys, if you have any desire or you're close to Blairesville next time this week, I will be here personally doing a library book reading, and then I'll be in Cranberry Township in Butler County, Pennsylvania on the 23rd. So you have to register for that. I don't think you have to register for this one, right? Just show up. Just show up.
Just show up.
So check it out. I'll put some more information in the comments section, and I'll see you guys on the next beach report. Ciao for now.